Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome to Coffee Talk.
Welcome, everyone. Did you hear my clapping soundtrack that I just played? We're getting really high tech around here. I pulled up one of my
Cheers to your Zoom techniques.
Oh,
Cheers. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
oh good morning.
Today
I
I
had
have
a bee
a
in my
coffee
face.
talk cup that's the size of my head. Megan, what do you have today? An owl.
Owl.
Nice. Very nice. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to Coffee Talk. We are your hosts, the small but mighty staff from Southborough Youth and Family Services. My name is Sara Castle. I'm the director of Southborough Youth and Family. And with me this morning, we have Megan Island, who's our assistant director. Say hello, Megan. And Shannon Knyman, who's our program coordinator. And today we have special guest, the resident at large, the wonderful board member at the Southborough Youth Commission, Sara Michas.
Hi, everyone.
Can you hear the clapping, or is it sound?
Oh, I didn't hear the clapping, but I enjoy it.
Oh, good. Well, so Coffee Talk, this is our second episode. So thank you for putting up with our very high-tech features that we have on the show. We put Coffee Talk together in an effort to reconnect with one another during a time where we've got a lot of barriers to being able to talk to one another, and we're all under a lot of stress these days. So we recognize people's needs to reach out to one another, and we need to talk to one another to get through these stressful times, and sometimes we just need to laugh. So we hope that this provides all of those things for you. At the end of the show, we will share a slide with some information about how you can get in touch with us if you want to write into the show. If you really want to be a special guest on the show, you can let us know. It's really fun. We don't have those big comfy armchairs for you to sit in. It's, you got to pick whatever chair you want from your own home, but we all come with our coffee cups. It's a good time. So how's everybody doing today?
So far, so good.
Yeah. Everybody's well. Anybody have any exciting stories going on with them?
I do. Important information for you guys. I need to move into the office.
You need to move into the office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. What's happening?
Well, actually, Sara, you might not know this, but Sara and Shannon, Sara, my coworker, and Shannon know that I am terrified of spiders.
Oh, no.
And lately, since I've been home so much, I've gotten to realize that my house is infested with spiders. And this culminated over the weekend with a definitely pregnant spider building a nest on the ceiling in my kitchen.
Oh, that's lovely.
So I need to move out. I gotta get out of here.
Permanently?
Yep, so moving into the office.
So is your husband coming with you? Like, should we expect you guys to both take up residence in the office, or
just
is he okay with
maybe
you?
one of the cats, maybe.
Okay, all right. We've always wanted an office cat, so.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered a pest control person?
I actually bought spider repellent on Amazon that day. So
Has
we'll
it
see
come
if
yet?
that actually works. I don't know.
Is it just one spider?
No, there are tons of spiders.
Really?
In my
And how
constantly.
Kind of spiders.
And how did you know the spider was pregnant? Is it like eating ice cream and pickles, or like?
He was wearing a maternity dress.
All right. Okay. So potentially pregnant spider. That is what my husband said. It was definitely building like a nest, not a web. One of those like white cottony things was being built on my ceiling.
Okay.
And so he took it outside and he was like, that was really fat. I'm pretty sure it was pregnant. And that's when I was like, no, baby spiders. Like I've seen a little clip of baby spiders coming out of nest, and it's like hundreds of them.
Better than having
can't
them
have
come
that.
out of your ears.
Ugh.
Have you had that experience, Sarah?
I did see I think it was some scary show where somebody built a nest in a spider in their ear. It was very,
Wait,
yeah.
I'm gonna have a nightmare tonight about that probably.
But I think you might need some cognitive behavior therapy.
Possibly.
Work
I
through
don't know where you
your
get that.
your arachnophobia.
I know. My husband always says they're good. They take care of all the annoying bugs, but there's just something about them I cannot. Shannon's witnessed this. There was a spider several times in my office last year, and Shannon had to come to my rescue.
See, Megan, there's nowhere for you to go.
Oh,
You can't
right.
come back to the office then.
That's true.
Moving into
Yeah.
the office won't save me.
Yeah.
You can move to the preschool. We
Okay.
have plenty of space there.
Yeah.
I went to the preschool to get away from my family for a little bit. And I was working in the sheds, organizing things in the back, and lo and behold, there was a whole family of 6 groundhogs living under there.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
Of moving into the shed during Quarantino was derailed by a family of groundhogs. So I don't
That's
know.
not a statement you say very often.
No.
That's for sure. So Sarah, you're mentioning the preschool, and I neglected to say this at the top of the show. My apologies. Sara is also a teacher at Southborough Village Preschool, which some of you may know, some of you may have had your little ones go to. And you mentioned the need to escape. And I think
Yes.
so many of us, I'm trying to think of what I've done to escape lately. Honestly, it's like, sometimes I just say, can I just go for a car ride? I'm not going to get out of my car or go anywhere. I'm just going to go sit in a parking lot and cry. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like it sometimes. But I know we invited you to come on today because, like so many of us, you're balancing work, family, your sanity, taking care of the house.
And Zoom meetings.
And Zoom meetings. So tell us what's been going on with you.
Well, it's been an interesting couple months here at Michas, as we like to call it. In the beginning of the governor's orders to stay home, we were like, yay, we get to all be at home. And I had my 2 grown-up kids here, and my husband, and my dad moved in for a while, and we baked bread, and we did puzzles, and we had dinner together.
So disillusioned.
Yes, and we were like, we're doing our part to flatten the curve, and it was so fun to participate in the social well-being of Massachusetts. But then days turned to weeks turned to months, and I saw kind of a cauldron of anxiety percolating in my house. At first it was kind of low level, like worried about losing their job. My dad worried about his elderly friends. My husband has chronic illness, so he worried about having to have a hospitalization or getting emergency medical care. And I just worried about Zooming with my preschoolers and trying to keep their attention, and worried about my roots, which are gone. But it was just, and then and we're kind of used to that in our household. So there's a lot of distraction, go for a walk or do something like that. But it got to the point in, I think, mid-May, where the pot boiled over, and I was dealing with full-blown panic attacks, like on a daily basis, one person or another. And I thought I was pretty good at managing these things, but I felt like when person was in this kind of big block mode, I was being totally ineffective. And I ended up like Googling things on my phone, like, what do you do? What do you say? So I'm kind of here to get your input on that. I think a lot of people are probably dealing with stress, anxiety, and perhaps some first panic attacks, for family members or themselves. So.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting too, because even as providers, we personally are experiencing these struggles, and it's hard to know what to say to somebody or how to help other people when you yourself are also feeling some of those struggles. It's such an interesting time because it's not like other crises that have happened in the world or across the country where it affects one region, and you can send your money and your wishes and prayers to the folks who have experienced that crisis. We are all going through, worldwide, it's just craziness. It's so hard. And that was actually one of the things. So last week we had a woman named Amy who wrote into us, and she was talking about how it's hard to know where to turn right now because you're going through stuff, and it's really hard to turn to your friends and say, I need to vent about stuff, because they're going through it too. And then you don't want friends and family members are great, but sometimes talking to them, the story ends up turning into what's going on with them. So that being said, I feel like we are always, we're biased because we're in this work, but talking to a professional about the stress can be really helpful because it's objective. So it's not somebody who knows your family members who's going to have an emotional response to what you're talking about. And also it's time set aside just for you. So they're not going to chime in. They might, relate to what you're talking about, but the time is for you, and it's not going to turn into, let me tell you what my son did the other day, or so. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, finding a professional is definitely a great idea. And I think too, when somebody's in a panic attack, it's kind of I don't know how to say this, each person has their own magic that helps them to come down from it. And I think it's just kind of trying different things out. I know for me, I was actually having a ton of panic attacks in the beginning of this. And in fact, it was waves of panic attacks where I would have 3-4 in a day. And, it was, I feel like a couple of weeks ago, I was having one, and I said to my oldest son, I'm like, go get me some ice. And he's like, ice? And I'm like, yep, go get me some ice. And he's like, for what? What do you need ice for? Which was really not really helpful in the moment.
Just do it.
Just do it. And, so I held the ice, and I'm sure that Sara or Megan can explain like what happens in your brain for that piece, but it's a way to very quickly ground you. Other people need to get a blanket and sit in the dark, and other people find that if they walk or try to walk uphill a little bit, that will help it. So I think it's, before you're having the panic attacks, it's a really good idea to write down a whole bunch of different strategies that you can try, and that people are going to be like, nope, not helping. That's not helping either. And then you hit on one that you say, actually, I'm feeling good. I'm starting to come back into myself. And then that's the strategy that's going to work for you or for that family member. Or fortunately, it's a little hit or miss.
Yeah, that's a great idea though, because I found one family member liked to no talk and just to be held, no talk, and just sit there and not look at them, just hold them. And then another one wanted kind of coaching about, it's just your body, chemistry talking to you, and it's not real, and kind of things like that. So that's a good point, is to kind of make a a checklist for each family member.
Yeah,
including
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, Megan, I'm reminded that you do a lot of this work through our office. We've both of us have received some training in something called dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. And there's a whole set of skills that are called distress tolerance skills. And so Shannon was talking about the temperature change. And I know, Megan, that you help folks that you work with sort of come up with like a toolbox to keep on them in those times.
Yeah, and so sometimes that might be like a physical toolbox of things. So one set of distress tolerance skills is self-soothing. And so that's just finding ways to comfort yourself through your senses. And so that might mean like having a box you go to with different things that you might find soothing to help get through that like really intense period. In Shannon, the holding the ice is just intense sensations can really help with that too. That's another DBT strategy. And so it made me think also when you said grounding, one of my favorite mindfulness activities that I'll teach people when I'm doing DBT work with them is the 5 senses activity. So you go through the most basic ways. You can go through each of the senses and just, one thing you can see, one thing you can feel. If you wanted to make it more lengthy, you can start with 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, and then 3 things you can hear, and just go down from there. And that's a really good grounding activity because it really encourages you to focus on what's going on around you in the moment, but like using something that's with you all the time, yourself, your senses. That's
where that doesn't work. Do you guys want to hear a funny story? I had to go in for an
Of course,
endoscope last.
Funny story.
I had to go in for an endoscope last week, which that's not the funny part of the story. Yeah. And I was completely freaked out that I have to be in the hospital to do this. And, the way that the hospital does it, it's very safe and everyone is COVID tested. And so there was very little that that I should have been anxious about, but I'm still anxious, and it's starting to set me off. And I thought, I'm going to do the 5 senses thing because before I like totally lose it, 5 senses. Okay. 5 things that I can touch. I can touch my shirt. I can touch my skin. I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that either. Oh, this isn't working. I can touch my hair.
Wait,
so
you're not supposed to touch your face.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch your face. Just don't touch your face. Don't.
And this mask is suffocating me.
Exactly. So maybe that's not the place to do the 5 senses.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
Yeah. So inadvertently you created an additional panic attack.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't complete the mindfulness activity.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was great though. The nurse, I said, I think I'm going to have a panic attack. And she said, how about we shut the curtain? How about we shut off the lights? And it was great because she recognized it right away and knew what to do. And those are things that do work for me. Again, some people need that dark and kind of need that almost fetal feeling, and so that was good.
Maybe we all need to order weighted blankets.
That's right.
Weighted blanket.
Our pandemic toolbox.
This is a total sidebar, but Megan and Shannon know that my kids were having difficulty sleeping maybe last year, and so pre-COVID-19, I bought some weighted blankets for them. I couldn't find any that were the lighter weight, and so I threw a 25-pound blanket on my 4-year-old when I was trying to get him to stay in bed. He's like, "Help! Help!"
I'll keep him in bed.
That's right.
I'm not sure it achieved what we were hoping to achieve.
And next week's episode is how to let your kids sleep through the night.
Oh, that's
tips from Sara.
I let my son, when he was about your kid's age, sleep with a huge 10-pound bag of rice on top of him.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Right?
I don't know. Weighted blankets probably weren't that popular before. I feel like it's definitely a more recent thing.
Yeah, that after the thunder shirt for your dog.
Oh, right.
Uh-huh.
Did he grow attached to the bag of rice, and did it have a name?
And no, he grew attached to me, and
Okay.
I had to
Okay.
sleep with him until then I slept on the side of it, on the floor, and
Yeah.
slowly I inched out the door as I read the whole Harry Potter series. It only took about 8 years to get in
Oh
my own
my gosh.
Oh,
I feel like that could be like a whole other episode talking
I
about
agree.
sleep and your
Sleep
children.
is huge.
Mhm.
Without good sleep hygiene, your whole family suffers.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and then you're more prone to panic attacks and all the other stuff.
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Sarah, I
don't think
wanted to
people always
mention.
realize that.
Oh,
I was going to say, I don't think people always realize the impact sleep has, because they might not be like feeling physically tired. And so they're like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, 3 hours of sleep is not enough every night.
No,
mhm.
it really leaves you at a loss to be able to manage your emotions and
Mhm.
daily stress. So
That's right. I was just going to mention, Sarah, that in addition to, the five senses exercise, for example, that sometimes, and maybe this would have been helpful for Shannon in that moment at the hospital, but sometimes it's helpful to have somebody sort of walk you through and sort of almost like I'm picturing like as part of our personal tool belts, we just hand somebody a script and say, please read this for me. But it's like, that's one way you can support your family members too, is if you find that something like that helps them, because for them to sort of think internally and remember walking through all of those steps, they might not be in a place to do that. But sometimes it can be helpful to have somebody step in and say, okay, find 5 things in the room that you can touch, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch. Maybe we need to do a whole episode on like some distress tolerance skills.
yeah, that's actually would be very helpful. But I like the 5 senses thing and having a personal toolbox
Yeah.
to deal with these things, and maybe sit down with everybody and
Yeah.
have a conversation about it before the panic attacks.
Right.
Yeah. A proactive measure. That's exactly, why we develop those plans ahead of time, but you got to have access to it. Eventually, once you use the activities enough, they come to you more automatically, but initially you might need to keep them on you so that you can recall some options
in your fanny pack.
in your fanny pack. Yes.
I think I'm going to print them up for each of my family members and put them in, laminate them and put them in my kitchen cabinets.
There you go.
Say, okay. Yeah.
I gotta know though, what coping strategies you use for trying to get preschoolers to sit down to a Zoom meeting, or how do you even do that?
Literally talk about stress. Like it was so great to see them, and they're super cute, but half of them are like down here, faces, or they're carrying their computer, iPad all over the place, dropping it on the ground. One kid got in bed and went to sleep. I'm like, am I really that boring? But we found that what worked at circle time in person or whatever, we were trying to do the same thing, like the calendar and the weather and sing a song. And we found the most important thing is, because they're inside your home and you're inside their home, is you've kind of stepped over these boundaries, but that's how we related to them, very personally, like, hey, I see that your little brother's in the room. Do you want to on Zoom? And it was more checking in with them emotionally, or recognizing, hey, I see you have a princess dress on. It was having more of a conversation than kind of talking at them. But they were still, I literally would get off and I'm like, I'm so stressed out. And it's only 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
But I would go for a run. I've been doing a lot of yoga, which has been helpful. And
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
I do dog yoga. You've heard of goat yoga?
Oh,
Goat yoga, yes.
Goat yoga. Well, my dog yoga is my dogs, when I'm doing my yoga, are licking me or me or bothering me.
So this wasn't something you like paid for to go to. This is a service that's being provided in your own home.
I should get a YouTube channel of my own.
Absolutely.
Start dog yoga.
Yeah.
I think there's kitten yoga, but no dog yoga yet. So
honestly, I mean, I feel like emu yoga is next because you could just use every animal. That could be interesting. I don't know how that
could be a little dangerous.
How about spider yoga for Megan?
No, I'm all set, thanks.
It's funny. I have a spider web out my backyard. It's really big, and it has like what I think are eggs on it too. And part of it wants to be a home wrecker and take it.
A home wrecker. Are you going to have an affair with that spider's husband?
Then I think of Spider-Man and all that.
Yeah.
I want to ruin his special web.
Yeah, I know it.
Well, I feel like we're all ready.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I was just going to say, it feels like we talked about a few different things, but we were talking about distress tolerance skills, but in particular, I think we were highlighting the need for physical input in those moments. We were just touching upon exercise as being critical. And again, I feel like we could spend an entire coffee talk episode talking about physical exercise. We talked about sleep being another. We were talking about temperature and sensory input. I think giving those things a try, Sarah, will be super helpful. And I love, your proactive approach of sitting down with family members. And it sounds like, you're already aware of what different people need. You guys have been together now for, what is it, like 95 days straight, something like that? So you're really familiar.
Yeah, I'm going to try this stuff out, and I'll come back and do a follow-up report, what works and what doesn't work. And
that
what
would
works
be great
for people,
Yeah. That would be great. Maybe when we do our distress tolerance episode, you can come back and talk to us more about it.
I'll talk to you about my own distress tolerance or intolerance.
Or lack thereof. So Shannon, I know you were thinking for our next episode, we were gonna, Shannon's been working on some really great curriculum called Screenwise, which comes to us from, we were introduced to this from Devorah Heitner, who was a speaker we had a few years ago. And we were thinking that next time we got together, we would do a little bit of work or talk about screen time right now. And we're on a screen right now.
The irony is not lost at all.
I know. Just how much time we're spending on screens and what we need to be aware of, in terms of balancing that and the risks associated, which is really hard because we're being put in positions where we don't really have a choice.
That's right.
Do you have anything you want to add as a sort of teaser for our next episode of what we might talk about?
Are you talking to me?
I am, yes. Yes.
Unfortunately, we're not.
I didn't say your name. My apologies.
No pointing or names.
You're below me.
I don't know who's where on this.
Yes, Shannon. You. Sorry.
No, I think you pretty much summed it up. Just the conversation about the need to balance our screen time and making a difference between being a consumer and for lack of a word that I can't find in my head, not, how to make screen time a healthier thing, if that's possible, and some tips and Great.
Can I throw my 2 bits in there too? Because something that I've heard among a lot of people that because we're spending so much time looking at ourselves, my daughter brought it up because she works for a hospital, but they're working at home, and they actually turn off their video links because people were getting really anxious about how they looked, and it was really triggering for a lot of people who have body image issues, especially in that adolescent, young adult age group, or older, middle-aged people like me. I'm gonna go get a lot of Botox after this. Anyway, just a thought.
That's great. That's great input. We will surely, so many different considerations when it comes to screen time, things that we're not even thinking of or that we wouldn't have even been aware of before all of this. So please join us next time. We'll have some more great conversation on screen time and
forward to
finding a balance with our relationship with our devices and making sure we schedule unplugged time. And we're going to, again, if you want to contact us, please see our screen at the end of the show for some more information about how you can do so. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks for including me today.